Well, our coverage continues of the WEF at Davos, and I must tell you, the chatter around India has probably not been louder in my experience of having looked at Davos from a third person's perspective. Somebody's looked at it very, very closely almost every year and knows what companies and countries are thinking about investing in India. Is the MD and CEO of Invest India, Mr. Deepak Bagla. He's with us. Thanks so much, Mr. Bagla. Is it my imagination or is the chatter really loud this time around?
Why don't you just walk down the promenade?
That is very loud.
India is everywhere. In fact, somebody just told me every 10 steps, you either have an Indian government lounge, a state government lounge, or a private sector lounge. And it's very interesting. It also actually personifies the kind of interest which the world is now looking at in India. But on our own lounges per se, we have three. We have one which is the India Lounge where all the business meetings are taking place. But very interestingly, we have two more this time. One is on inclusivity. And I think that's a very important one where we are showcasing the strengths of India's artisans, our craftsmanship, and to show the new India which is now emerging bottom up. Sure. And this is, one of the stated goals of the Honorable Prime Minister. And I think everybody is appreciating that because this is a new India which is not just limited to the top few metros of the world, but to show them the real diversity which it is emerging. The other one which is very interesting is the Sustainability Lounge. I don't know if you've seen it. That one is getting a very significant footfall. And that is put squarely on the ground that India's focus on sustainability. And how India is walking the talk on that and how India's leadership, the Honorable Prime Minister's stated objective of sustainability. In fact, the objective that India could be the first country which will actually bring a green industrial revolution in place. And that has been much appreciated, and not just appreciated, but much well acknowledged. Sure. And putting all these pillars in together is what you are seeing getting translated into the investment interest in India.
How is that? Yeah, please tell me about it.
Let me just share a few statistics with you.
Sure.
Since independence, we've got about $970 billion of FDI. Over 430 billion of that have come in the past 8 years. Just in the past 8 years. Let me tell you more interesting. It's come from 162 countries. 162 countries trust India for its future, trust India's leadership, trust India for its opportunity.
Sure.
Trust India's ability to partner with them and to fulfill its promises. But more interestingly, it's come across 61 sectors. Think of any other opportunity across the globe where they will have such a wide bouquet of investable areas where they can come in. And add to that the very fact that India remains one of the most open economies on the planet, with a large part of this FDI and the private sector having the ability to play a role in each and every sector of my economy. And let me give you the third leg of it, which is to my mind the most gratifying. FDI now in the past 8 years has come into 31 states and union territories of India. Think about it 10 years ago, that FDI was sort of limited to 10 or 12 states. The moment it is going down into India, you're seeing the new India which is emerging, which is a bottom-up India. And the moment you have a larger number of states which are getting in, you see there is a strong USP of each of our states.
Sure.
The more the states, the bigger is the bouquet. The bigger is the bouquet, the bigger is your ability to absorb capital.
So
absorption of capital, let me just give you this very point, has been one of the biggest things which we have witnessed, especially in the past 72, 84 months, especially with digitization coming in. The Honorable Prime Minister's Digital India initiative which he launched. That has created our ability to absorb larger amounts of capital.
Sure.
And the last part, if I may, with your permission, give me one other country in the world where for 8 consecutive years, they've set a new record for themselves in their FDI recipient. And even in the midst of the lockdown, you received the highest ever FDI which you did in your history, $83.5 billion last year. That itself shows what India is looking at. Now you were asking me what are the different conversations we are happening this year vis-a-vis the earlier. The conversations which we are all having both in our one-on-ones and in our number of roundtables which we are working on, the question is no longer that should we be looking at India. The question is, tell us which is a location we can come to, what are the approvals which are required. So the transition of that decision has moved beyond the exploration of India to the point of starting to grounding their investments very actively.
Which are the top sectors? Which are the top themes that are wanting to set up base in India?
Which are the top sectors?
Yeah, sectors, themes that are looking to set up base in India.
So when I mentioned to you 61 sectors, it's right across. And a large number of
Maybe
new
first
sectors.
amongst equals.
See, what would typically happen is that as of now, you would look at it, some of the larger sectors bring you the larger deal checks.
Sure.
You could have oil, energy, transition, infrastructure, healthcare, which are all there. You have a large number of new sectors which are emerging, which will be the sectors of the future. For example, data storage. Approximately 40% of my total investment in data storage has come in the past 24 months in the lockdown. So you are having a large number of these new sectors associated with digitization, with the new economy. Even when the traditional sectors of health and finance, you're seeing new elements of it which is coming out as a subset of the larger sectors. So the innovation of India is now creating those big opportunities. So when I tell you that we are just at that cusp of an inflection point, and if you ask me how do I see the road ahead, I think the story has only just begun.
Very interesting to hear that. My final question would be about the chatter that you, or the conversations that you've had at the WEF this time. Maharashtra said a lot of MOUs, Tamil Nadu had positive things to say. What has happened at Davos this time around in the last 3 days?
So I'll give you an interesting thing which I am seeing as a new emerging trend.
In Davos.
In Davos. We had a little of that which I saw when we were here 6 months ago in summer. But one of the big things which has come out, and which is how India managed its one of the pandemic situation vis-a-vis any other country, and the ability to do business reforms and business resurgence as a focus at the same time, doing huge sustainability, 800 million people being fed, 200 million people getting a tap of drinking water, even in the midst of that pandemic.
Sure.
Now that has gone out very well. The fact that you reached out and helped over 130, 50 countries during this pandemic has gone so strongly, and your leadership now has been so well acknowledged, or especially your political leadership, that the discussion points many times today are emerging in the past 2 or 3 days we've noticed, that they're looking at India not just only as a business opportunity, but looking at the Indian leadership also to try and bring solutions to global issues which everybody is facing today. So India's primary role now and India's prime position of its leadership is now getting very well established and acknowledged. And everyone, we had roundtables yesterday where we were discussing sustainability across the globe. And I still remember an ex-Nobel laureate winner who's a president of a country from South America mentioned that India is one which can today play a very significant role in bringing some kind of solutions to the challenges which we are all facing on the geopolitical side. And that sort of explains to you the new positioning of a new India and an acknowledgement of where India stands today.
May it last. Lovely hearing this. And Mr. Bagla, may you have a lovely remainder of the conference. I'm sure the first 3 days were great. The India Lounge is fantastic. And I hope it continues for the remainder of the conference as well.
I will compliment the team on what you have done.
You should, definitely. It's a fabulous experience out here at the India Lounge. Not just for me, but for a bunch of people that I've seen coming here. So
Glad.
thank you for that. And looking forward to see you next year as well.